Fifth graders, today you're going to be adding color to your pumpkins. And what you have from last week is a pumpkin drawing that has been done and outlined in glue. Today we're going to be adding color to that, and that glue is going to kind of protect those white spaces from the watercolor. Now think about your three requirements: sky, ground, and pumpkin. You need to paint those three things. Anything else is extra. Now as you're painting those three things, we're wanting to think a little bit of realism, and we're also going to be thinking about some watercolor techniques. Now when painting with watercolor, you could paint just like we would with acrylic paint or tempera paint. I dip and swipe in the watercolor tray. Okay? And I'm having that ballerina brush dance on her tippiest of toes so that I stay within the shape created with the glue. Okay? With watercolor, or just like any other paint, I can kind of layer colors. So I know a pumpkin isn't yellow, but sometimes a pumpkin has lighter spots and darker spots made with orange, and I know orange is created with yellow and red, so I can kind of start to layer those colors together and think about where is there going to be highlights on my pumpkin and where is there going to be lowlights on my pumpkin. Those lowlights might be a little bit darker. So now I'm going to come back over and add orange with it. More water will make the color lighter. Less water will make the color a little bit brighter. So adding value with the watercolor can be a fun technique. Another technique might be something called wet on wet, and what that means is I have a clean brush with clean water. I'm going to lay the water down first, and this watercolor paper is made to absorb a little bit more water than usual, and then I'm going to just touch the paint to that color. This can be a fun way to add a different kind of texture to your watercolor. I can add water back on top. See if I can get it to swirl a little bit more. So as you're working with your watercolor today, you can play with those two techniques. One last technique to play with is using salt on the watercolor. So I'm going to come around and I just have one container of salt, and I'll bring it around to the table, and when it's your table's turn, you can grab a little pinch. But when I'm working with salt and watercolor, what I need to do is add some paint, and I'm going to need a little bit more water than usual with my watercolor paints. This might be good for the ground, and then you can sprinkle a little bit of salt on top. Now what happens is the salt soaks up some of the pigment in some areas, and it will add a texture. Okay, right now this paint is drying, so I'm not going to touch the salt, but next week when you come back and it's dry, you can wipe that salt off. Okay, so I want you to experiment with layering colors, wet on wet technique, and maybe even salt. When your watercolor painting is finished, you're going to carry it flat like a lunch tray to the red drying rack.